In today's lab, we're going to be analyzing different types of sand for their different physical and chemical properties to determine what source the mystery sand came from. I've already laid out my well plate with the different types of sand, which in our first one we have sample 1, here is sample 2, sample 3, sample 4, and then our crime scene sample is in the last section right here. So part A tells us that we are doing our sulfate test, where we are going to put 2 drops of barium chloride and 2 drops of acetic acid in each of our types of sand, stir them with a toothpick, and then we are looking for white particles to form. So let's do that. So we're going to put 2 drops in each section. And then I'm going to go back through with my acetic acid and put 2 drops in as well. Now the last step is to stir it with a toothpick. We must remember to not cross-contaminate, so we'll have to use a different toothpick for each well. So now that we've stirred up each of our samples, we are looking for a white precipitate to have been created. Now we notice in number 1, we have a lot of white that wasn't there before. For comparison, you can see that we have a lot of a white substance occurring, indicating to us that sulfate is present. Meanwhile, we have no white that appeared in our second one, nothing in our third one, our fourth one, or in the crime scene one, indicating that sulfate was only present in our first one. Our second test is our carbonate test, and we're going to add 2 drops of silver nitrate to each of our wells, and then 2 drops of acetic acid, and once again stir. We are going to continue to look for a white precipitate to form just like we did the first time. So let's put our drops of silver nitrate in first. And then we're going to follow up with our drops of acetic acid. And just like last time, we are going to stir, stir, stir with our toothpicks, being careful not to cross-contaminate. And now we look again, and we can see that our first sample once again created that white precipitate, indicating that it also had our chloride present. We do not see any white appearing in our second sample, indicating that there is no chloride present. We do not have any white appearing in the other 3 samples as well, indicating that they also do not have chloride present. Last but not least, we're going to be performing the carbonate test in our 3rd row. We are going to add hydrochloric acid to 2 drops to each of those samples, and we are looking for bubbling to occur. Bubbling would indicate that carbonate is present. So let's take a look. So we can see that sample number 1 instantly started bubbling as soon as the hydrochloric acid hit it. So carbonate is present. Sample number 2 also begins bubbling with our carbonate. Not quite as much, but it is still bubbling. Meanwhile, sample number 3 does not bubble at all when presented with the hydrochloric acid. Neither does sample number 4. And last but not least, our crime scene sample also does not bubble. So we only got bubbling for samples 1 and 2. Up next, we're going to be performing our magnetic test. So I have each of our samples of sand laid out on a piece of paper, and I have a magnet, and we are going to run the magnet over top our sand to see if any of it is attracted to the magnet. If it is attracted to the magnet, that will mean that it has a positive magnet test. If it isn't attracted to the magnet, that means the sand isn't magnetic and it is a negative test. So we run it over. Want to always run over both sides to make sure. Maybe touch it in. Nothing on my magnet. So that is no magnetic for 1. Same deal with 2. Nothing on my magnet, not magnetic for 2. Run it over sample number 3. That is a non-magnetic for 3. Run it over sample 4. That is a non-magnetic for 4. And we'll do it over our crime scene sample. And that is another negative magnet test. Now it's time for lights out because our last part is our fluorescent test, where we are going to take a black light. We are going to shine it on each of our samples to determine what, if any, % of it fluoresces. Make sure you're looking carefully at each sample. So up first, we can see that a small number of particles end up fluorescing. Those are the ones that are showing up as that more bright white color. So make your estimation about what percentage has fluoresced. In sample number 2, we can see that the ones you are seeing as that bright white blue color are the ones fluorescing. Meanwhile, the ones that have remained a normal color are not fluorescing. Moving on to sample number 3, we can see that we maybe have 1 or 2 particles that fluoresce, but overall this one doesn't fluoresce very much. On number 4, once again, the ones showing up as that bright white color are our ones fluorescing, so a small number. Make your best estimate about what percentage this is. And then on to our crime scene, where once again we have 1 or 2 particles, but not very much. So make your best estimate for that percentage. Now that we've analyzed our sand samples, both chemically and physically, it is your responsibility to determine which port had the crime scene sand come from, and to give me a detailed explanation as to why.